And we're back. NFL Power Rankings Playoff Edition. Now, quickly before it starts, I just want to let you know ignore all of these teams. This is just the Week 18 Power Rankings minus the Bengals. I had to move them down because they were in the top 14. Obviously, they can't be in the top 14. Uh, I will be doing an end of season Power Rankings. This is just the Week 18 ones, so none of this is final. But yeah, on to number 14, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are 10-7 and representing the 6th seed. Now, in my opinion, they are by far the worst team going into the playoffs. They are on a massive losing streak. They are having quarterback issues, and they are going against a team like the Ravens, who we just saw, beat them not long ago by a convincing margin. So I don't really know if it'll matter who plays a quarterback for the Steelers going into Baltimore. I really don't like their odds, even with the Ravens' playoff success in recent years. Yeah, they're the worst team in my eyes. At number 13, we have the Texans, who are 10-7, representing the 4th seed in the AFC. They're kind of the same situation as the Steelers, but instead of, bad play, it's just lack of star players. The injuries this team has suffered is really brutal when you look at, their backups. They don't have that many good backups compared to other teams, and they're starting to pay the price, as they were a top team at one point, and now here they are limping in at 10-7. The key thing to note about them is they do have the home playoff game, which I think does give them an advantage over the Steelers. However, I also don't like their matchup at all against the Chargers. So, for Texans and Steelers fans, you're probably the two teams I'm expecting to lose, and I'm feeling confident about that. So, I'm sorry, but should prove me wrong. 12, we have the Broncos, who are 10-7, representing the 7th seed in the AFC. Now, the Broncos are in an interesting situation because they finally get over the hump, get into the playoffs after losing barely week after week against top-tier teams. Unfortunately, they're going to have to be going into, unoptimal temperatures and conditions against the Bills. So, if I'm a Broncos fan, I'm not very happy about that. However, you made the playoffs, which is a great bright side for you guys. I think you guys have better rosters than these other two teams. Granted, it's going to take a lot for you to beat the Bills, but, I'm for some reason feeling more confident than I am about the Texans and Steelers. So, 11, we have the 6th-seeded 12-5 Commanders. Now, they also have a tough situation coming up because they have the Buccaneers, which I think will be one of the greater wildcard games we see this week. The only downside for them is it's all going to depend on the rookie quarterback. I don't know how well he's going to play, in his first playoff game. It's a new environment. It's a different type of game. Instead of it being just a normal Sunday, it's you win or you go home. I don't know how well he's going to respond to that. And because of that, I have him down here because they have a great team around him. It's just the uncertainty that, they don't have much playoff history recently, especially under these guys. So I'm curious to see how well they respond. Granted, they could play amazing, but who knows. Number 10, we had 7-seeded at 11-6 Packers. Now, they're kind of in an interesting spot because they're suffering some injuries that are really brutal. Quarterback and wide receiver ones both potentially going to miss this game. Christian Watson already confirmed, but Jordan Love, I haven't heard any status about. Granted, they do play Sunday, so we do have a bit of time to learn. The key thing about the Packers is we saw them last year win as a 7th seed, the first ever to do so. They have a much tougher matchup. Even if Jalen Hurts doesn't play, we've seen other backup quarterbacks do really well. That's just the Eagles. They have that team who, next man up in quarterback, they're doing well. So for Green Bay, they have a tough hill to climb, but, we saw them do it last year, so that's why I'm giving them the extra boost over some other teams. 9, we had the Buccaneers, who are 10-7, and at the 3 seed. Same thing about them. We saw them do it last year. I'm curious to see how they're going to respond. They get the 3 seed. They're going to be going against the Commanders, which I think is a very favorable matchup for them. They beat the Commanders last time they played in the playoffs. My only downside is how they played against the Saints early on. If they do that again, I would not expect them to win this game. However, we've seen them play against really great teams and win. They beat the Lions. They beat the Eagles. So they can beat these good teams, and they can do it convincingly. It's just when they have a bad game, they have a bad game. And unfortunately, I don't know if that's going to be enough for playoffs. So they're 10-7. They're going to have to be consistent for the playoffs if they want to win it all. So let's see Buccaneers. Number 8, we have the Rams, who are 10-7, I believe, as well, and the 4 seed. They have a interesting matchup against the Vikings. Now, the key thing about this game is going to be in SoFi. The Rams, easily the hottest teams in the league. I do think they have a very favorable matchup with the Vikings, who we just saw take a huge blow to the Lions. The key thing is how the Vikings are going to play, because I personally like the Rams really well in this matchup. I think it's about a coin flip if the Vikings play even up to their normal standards. Plus, we saw the Rams beat the Vikings by 2 scores earlier in the season, something that has only happened twice this season, one of which being that Week 18 game. So I do believe that the Rams have a very favorable matchup. It's just they're going to have to pull a lot of strengths in order to win this game, because the Vikings finished 14-3 for a reason. 7, we have the other LA team. This time it's going to be the 6-seeded Chargers at 11-6. Now, the key thing to talk about with the Chargers is how good they've done. Or, excuse me, they're actually the 5 seed. They went from one of the worst teams in the league to getting a good head coach and being top tier. Now, the thing that's different between them and the Commanders, who also had similar situation, is Jim Harbaugh has done this before. He's won a national championship. He's gone to a Super Bowl, where Jane Daniels in LSU, he didn't really do all that. What I think is going to decide this season for the Chargers is Jim Harbaugh's coaching, because they have the roster to win it all. It's just going to come down to, is Jim Harbaugh going to be able to outcoach some of the NFL elites? Number 6, we have the Vikings, who are 14-3 at the 5 seed in the NFC. I think they are a great team. I mean, we just saw them competing in Week 18 for the number 1 seed. Here they are at the 5 seed because of that loss. Now, personally, for the Vikings, I do think you have a good matchup against the Rams. You two, I think, clash perfectly. Probably, toss up between you and the Rams and Buccaneers, Commanders for the best wildcard game this week. The only downside is we just saw how bad Sam Darnold can play. If he has history repeat and he goes out there this week and does the same thing, I think you guys are going packing. The key thing to also note is this is going to be played in SoFi Stadium. So even though you have by far the better record, you're going to be playing an away game. So that's really brutal. Number 5, we have the 15-2 1-seeded Chiefs. Now the Chiefs, let's just be honest, they're probably going to win it all. It's just they have not looked convincingly good in any of the games they have won, besides their Christmas one. So, with that being said, I think they are going to be a great team. However, I think they're going to have to step up their play if they want to make a run in the playoffs. I do think they are at danger of going home early, even with their playoff success and how good Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid and all these guys are. But if they're not able to step it up, I don't think they're going to be able to win in these low-scoring games like they have been. So, yeah, it's all going to depend on how many points they score. Number 4, we have the Ravens, who are 12-5 in the 3 seed in the AFC. I think the Ravens have potential to win it all. I think they're the best roster in the AFC. I think they have a really great chance. The only downside is regular season Lamar. He's been MVP 2 times, probably going to be a 3rd time this year. His downside is he does not have playoff success. He cannot win the playoff games. He has not won multiple playoff games in his career. He has won 1 per season or not even 1 per season, but he only wins 1 if he wins a playoff game. So that's the reason they're here, is because even with how good their roster is, they are suffering some injuries, but I still think, they will be fine. The injuries there, or the success they've had in the playoffs, is going to be a huge head nodder. Number 3, we have the Eagles, who are 14-3 in the 2 seed in the NFC. The Eagles, easily, probably the best team in the NFC roster-wise. Them and Detroit is going to be an amazing match if we see it. The only downside for them is Jalen Hurts. If he doesn't play, this is going to be a huge issue, because I just don't know if I trust Tanner McKee or Kenny Pickett. As much as we've seen them do well, the Eagles are a wide receiver injury away, I feel like, or a Saquon Barkley injury away from not looking great. I mean, I'm glad we say it. The Eagles have by far the best roster in the league, in my opinion. I don't think it matters who quarterbacks that team. They will do well. The only issue is once that roster starts to break down, if we see a wide receiver or a running back injury, I don't know if I'm going to be able to say that anymore. So, yeah, they stay healthy, they should be fine. But if not, yeah. Number 2, we have the Bills, who are 13-4 and the 2 seed in the AFC. They're kind of a different story. We've seen Josh Allen put this team on his back. They don't really have a solid receiving room. They have a bunch of guys who, are mid. They don't really have that standout guy. And for the playoffs, it's going to be a really tough task because we're talking about the best of the best here. I do think for the Bills, though, we have seen Josh Allen put the team on his back. So as long as Josh Allen stays healthy and he plays how he's played all regular season, they should be fine. Plus, they've always done historically well in the wild card. Now, once we talk divisional championship round, it's a bit of a different story. However, we're not at that point right now, so that's why they're at number 2. And the Lions are going to be number 1. They're 1 seed in the NFC for a reason. They have suffered so many injuries, and here they are, even with their backups, balling out, putting up a 31-9 points on a team who was right there with them for the 1 seed. I think they are by far the scariest team in the playoffs because we've seen them do it. We've seen Jared Goff go the distance, not able to win it, but he's gone to it. We've seen Dan Campbell just last year take them to the championship game. I think it's this year that, they will do it. So with that being said, they're going to be at the number 1. I don't think there's anything that's going to slow them down because we've seen them replace guys with injuries. So as long as they keep having these guys who they can replace, they should be fine. And with that being said, that's going to do it for my 14 teams playoffs. I hope you enjoyed. I did. I'll see you guys next time with predictions. I just want to quickly talk about that for a moment. I am going to be recording this the same day this goes out, the same day I'm recording this more than likely. It's just going to come out Thursday. So if there's any news that break that I, have misinformation about, just know it's because I recorded it 2 days early just because I'm a bit busy this week, Life gets in the way sometimes, so you have to cram it all into one little episode or one little day. So yeah, see you guys next time. Goodbye. Hope you enjoyed.